Okay, so this is Deadly Void with Diablo 3 Strategy Guide. In this podcast, we'll be going over essentially the farming differences between Hell Act 4, Inferno Act 1, and Inferno Act 2. We've gotten a lot of questions, and a lot of my friends have asked, where are good places to farm, especially once you hit Inferno, because you do hit a number of brick walls and ways that you can progress through it. And I think the first thing in terms of the basics is you have to understand what Nephalem Valor is. I'll very quickly go over the description, and the understanding is once you hit level 60, you have, every time you kill a unique or a set of monsters, you get one stack. One stack equates to 15% magic fine, and it stacks up to 5 times. And this is as long as you don't change your skills. So you want a skill build that can progress through those 5 stacks as well as whoever you're trying to kill. And there's 2 ways to think about it for the skill, how you use Nephalem Valor to farm. The first is to quickly get stacks and to kill bosses. And this is one of my personal favorites because the uniques are easier, and I'm just trying to progress to the bosses to get the rare drops. The second is to actually go through and kill the uniques and using them as a source of magic fine. So that's the 2 basic ways to use Nephalem Valor, and the 2 other factors that you should be considering is how long the runs take. Some of my friends have been doing Act 2 Inferno, they've been running it, but it essentially takes over an hour to do, and that's a really long time for one run. And the third thing is the difficulty. If you keep wiping, it makes it very difficult for you to progress through the run itself. So something that, in terms of the factors, I would say the very basics is you want to be able to stack your Valor and go through the run. I wouldn't say easy, but you should be able to get through without dying more than about 5 times. I know that in the beginning that I have died, and we'll go over some videos that shows the footage of it. Next, we'll go over the pros and cons of each, and then lastly we'll go over kind of the magic fine portion of it. So for the pros and cons, first for Hell Act 4, if you can't get through Diablo, honestly you can't get through Inferno. So definitely if you're stuck in Hell Act 4, it's a good way that you can get through and farm, but it's quite difficult to farm Act 4, and this is because in terms of the mini bosses, the Rakanoth, it's hard to get your 5 stacks before you hit him, and then even Diablo, it's a very long battle. So in terms of the time and difficulty, it's very difficult to get through it. So if you are able to jump through Inferno, the difficulty of Hell and Inferno Act 1 are about the same. So the standard farming for Inferno Act 1 is to do what's known as the Warden and then the Butcher Run. So you get your 5 stacks, you go to the Warden, you typically can do 3 running into the Warden's area, you'll get the 2 last ones, you save the prisoners. Warden's really easy, you kill him, and then you can usually, if you wanted to kill a unique on the way to the Butcher, you can. If not, just go ahead and kill the Butcher. The one thing that a lot of newbies, and especially me, when I first started Act 1, the difficulty of Butcher is the fact that he has about a 3-minute cooldown, or a 3-minute enrage. So if you don't kill him in 3 minutes, you need to change your build, because he will, fire will light up everyone, you will die. There's no way you really can get around that. There is a little exploit where you can, if this is the entirety of the Butcher area, there is a little space right here. It's an exploit, so it'll definitely get patched probably tomorrow. But right there is where you don't get hit, even if you hit the enrage timer. So you can do that if you want to right now, but you really should just get your DPS up if you can. So this is Inferno Act 1 guide. A lot of newbies, and especially when you're progressing through the game, Act 2 is a big step up from Act 1. And this is more in terms of, I think, from a DPS standpoint, from the monsters as well as a survivability standpoint. So when you are jumping to Act 2, it's difficult, especially if you're a melee class, and I play Monk personally. So getting gear, you'll hit a hard item wall to do Act 2. But once you can do Act 2, it's a lot better because in terms of the levels of the eye levels of the monsters and the item levels, to drop you the mods that you really want in terms of the gear. If you can do Act 2, I would suggest it, but if it takes an hour, if it takes an hour and a half, it's definitely not worth it, from what I think, because it just takes too long from a time and difficulty standpoint. So the Act 2 standard is you can either, assuming that you're using Nephalem Valor to just run it, find the easiest way that you can get your 5 stacks, and then you can go on and kill Zoltan. We are going to post a video of an easy way to kill Zoltan right now. I'm sure it'll get patched a little later on, but the way that it works is that, again, so this is, assumingly, let's change this to Zoltan run. You start here, you go here, here's the 3 monsters, and what you do is you pull them to the top, right around here, and then you run down here. And the reason you do that is because for some reason they just derp around right up top if you're not in your view, which means that especially if you're a ranged DPS, all you can do is you stand here, you just kill them. Like, it's easy. It's probably going to get patched again, but it's a very easy way to kill them without doing it. It also allows you to change your Magic Find gear at the very end. And again, we'll talk about Magic Find a little bit later. In terms of survivability, I know I have wiped a few times with the boss being really small in terms of their HP, just because it takes me a little bit. And again, we'll go over a way to get the Magic Find gear on quicker and to kill him. But that's how you kill Zoltan. Then you just run through the quest, you go to Belial, and even if your 5 stacks are running out, there's one unique right before Belial that you can get to kill him. Typically, in terms of killing Belial, the hard part is the second part, and the reason being is because of trash mobs. So everything that's not Belial, they do a lot of damage, and it's pretty difficult. It's a little bit easier if you have 2 people involved doing it, but again, if you're doing runs and you don't have a friend, you can do it. You're going to have to do a little bit of kiting around for that. And the third area, if you're like a monk like me, you can just stand there, and I'll have a video attached to maybe this, as well as a standalone video of me killing Belial, where I just stand there and I have enough dodge where I can just dodge his stuff and damage mitigation for his 3rd and final form. But that's essentially how you can do runs on the Hell, Inferno, and Inferno Act 2. Again, the 3 things that you need to keep track of in terms of when you are grinding and doing your runs is how long is it taking you? How hard is it to get those stacks, and how hard is it to kill them? And I think if you keep that in mind and understand that there is just a progression, and there is just in Diablo it'll be an item wall. You'll hit an item wall and you can progress through it. A lot of people say, it's kind of dumb that you have all the gear that you need to progress through Inferno. You get it at the Act 4 farming Inferno, but everything outside of weapons you can farm. And the reason being is because the requirements to get good armor are much lower in terms of the level of the item. You can get really good 54, 57, even the low level 60 items from farming this. And it may take you a little bit longer than you think, but I mean, come on, this is Inferno at the end of the game. And people haven't even progressed through it. So we'll have some videos up for this attached to it, and this is essentially how you can go through it. In terms of the last aspect, Magic Find, I think it's very important to note a lot of people have their own set of Magic Find gear in addition to the regular gear, and what they do is they'll swap it out when the enemies are at very low HP. The one thing you got to keep track of when you're fighting a boss is you could get wiped. So we do have a video, I'll attach it to either the YouTube, in which you can use macros to just shift swipe the entirety of your Magic Find gear, so it's a lot quicker. It'll save you some life, and definitely it'll take you a little bit to get that Magic Find on. But what you can do is you're adding 150% Magic Find on top of the 75%. And Nephalem Valor actually gives you, for the first 3 stacks, it'll give you 1 additional blue, and the 4th and 5th gives you an additional rare. So you're getting 3 free blues, 2 rares on the boss kills. If you get on that Magic Find, you have a much higher chance of getting better items and making it efficiency out of that run, just for that little space of time in which you swap your Magic Find. This is just a big part of the Diablo series, and I mean, I personally don't think that I don't agree with it, but that's just how it is. So if you really want to make good use of all of this grinding, you really want to spend that little bit of time at the end on the magic find portion to make sure you can get the best that you can. You can find pretty cheap magic find gear on auction house and just swap it out at the end. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll have more tips and tricks and free videos to explain the game a little bit more in depth for you in terms of the farming in Inferno especially. But we also have better and more in-depth evaluations of the classes, how to get through it, the gear checks as well. Thanks for joining us again.